Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon from Jakarta. And I think there are some people coming from outside of Indonesia. So good morning or probably good evening, wherever you are. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Fajar Ibnu Tufail, and I am the researcher of the Research Center of Area Studies of the Indonesian Institute of Sciences, Pusat Penelitian Kewilayahan, Lembaga Ilmu Pengetahuan Indonesia, which is soon to be transforming institutionally into the Agency of Research and Innovation, a national agency of research and innovation. Yes, thank you for joining our webinar this afternoon. This webinar is organized by our center, especially our program, the Japan Studies program at the Indonesian Institute of Sciences, what we call the Japan Circle. Before I sorry, I forgot to open the presentation. So before we begin with the presentation, I would like to also introduce a little bit our program, the Japan Circle. But allow me some, give me some a little time to open my slides. Just a minute. Yes. Yeah, I would like to introduce our program. Just a brief introduction to what is Japan Circle. Let me share screen. Okay. So as I said earlier, Japan Circle is a Japan Studies program at the Indonesian Institute of Sciences, and we've been working on doing research in Japan or related anything related to Japan since 2011. And this program, this Japan Circle program, does mostly research. And there are some issues that we've been working on since 2011, such as the risk and disaster in Japan, popular culture and creative work in Japan, Japanese popular culture in Indonesia, Japanese studies in Indonesia, and also some also a film screening of the Makoto Shinkai animation film. So those are examples of some of the activities that we've been doing at Japan Circle network. And we also have been collaborating with outside institutions. So there are many institutions, but these are the most recent one. The Japan Foundation. We've been working collaboratively with Japan Foundation to carry out research on the institutional development of Japanese studies in Indonesia, and also research on Japanese popular culture in Indonesia. And also we've been taking part actively in Japan Foundation's regular event of Japan Scopes. And also we've been working collaboratively with the Art Research Center of the Ritsumeikan University in Kyoto. And we are working on two major projects with the Art Research Center. The first one is the Digital Borobudur project, in which we are making photogrammetric recording of the Borobudur temple in Indonesia. And the objective of the project will be creating a complete and detailed digital modeling, digital visualization of the temple, and also creating related databases. And the second one, in which this webinar will be part of the project, is the digital Japan-Indonesia Maritime Network project. And in this project, we are working with the Art Research Center and also with the Indonesian Arkeologi Office in Jogja. We are trying to sort of creating some kind of databases on the maritime network between Japan and Indonesia, and also probably focusing more on the database on the maritime cultures in Indonesia. So this is an ongoing project, and this part of the this webinar is part of the this project. So we've been holding this webinar. This webinar is the third one. The first one, we had the webinar on Japan-Indonesia relationship in fisheries and fishing techniques. And the second one, we already had a seminar on the ceramic trade, Japan, Southeast Asia ceramic trades, which was held last week. And this one is will be the third one, the third seminar, webinar. So we will be having more seminars in the future, and then I will keep you posted on our activities related to this project. So those are my short those introduction to the Japan studies. And now I'd like to introduce our speaker, webinar speaker this afternoon, Agni Mochtar. Some of you probably already know her very well. Agni is the researchers at the Yogyakarta Archaeological Research in Jogja in Central Java, and she got the bachelor degree in archaeology from Gajah Mada University in 2009, and then she went to Australia to get her master in maritime archaeology at Flinders University, in where she wrote her thesis on the Punjulharjo boat, and then this thesis got awarded 2018 Flinders University Master of Maritime Archaeology Best Thesis. And she has been actively conducting research in the field of maritime archaeology, and her current project, it's working. She is working on the researching maritime cultural landscape in of the Brantras River, East Java. And she has been publishing several articles related to the underwater archaeology, also related to the cultural heritage management of the Punjulharjo boat in Rembang. So that's our my introduction to our speaker this afternoon. And without further ado, I would like to invite Mbak Agni to give her presentations. And I will be opening the Q&A session later on after the presentation. And if you have anything to ask or comments, please put your name in the chat room, or maybe raise your hand. And if you would like to pose your question directly, but if you just want to type your question, you can do it by typing your questions in the chat room, and then I will read the questions later on during the Q&A session. Okay, so without further ado, monggo Mbak Agni.
Ya, nggih, matur nuwun, Pak Fajar. Thank you, Pak Fajar. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending wherever you are. First, I'd like to thank Pak Fajar, of course, and his team for inviting me to be here and give a presentation, a small one, short one, but hopefully will be an interesting one. And also thank you for everyone who have joined us this afternoon. I see quite a lot of familiar names and faces, which is really good. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I think I will go directly to my presentation. Please allow me to share my screen. Okay. Is it working all right?
Yes, perfect.
All right.
Silakan.
Cool. Yeah, so today's my presentation will be about Punjulharjo boat. Some of you might have seen me give a few presentation about this, but this is something more from the results of my thesis. So I haven't presented anything related to Punjulharjo after I finish my thesis. So hopefully you will find some new stuffs and more things to discuss between us. And I'm so excited for the Q&A after this presentation. To a bit introduce myself, I am Agni Mochtar, for you who might have not know me before. I'm working in the Regional Agency for Archaeological Research in the Yogyakarta province. So it is a state institution authorizes the archaeological research, especially in Yogyakarta, Central Java, and East Java. So we are under the Ministry of Education, Culture, Research, and Technology. And today I'm here because Pak Fajar invited me to join his team in the Japan Circle project dealing with Japan-Indonesia Maritime connection. Right. Today I will talk about a bit of history of the finding of the Punjulharjo boat, and then about the previous archaeology that have been done on the boat, and then of course talking a lot about the boat building technology, and then and I will touch also a little bit about the future plans. So actually it's current plans, current projects that we are doing, especially with the Japan Circle team with the Ritsumeikan University. For those of you who are not familiar with Punjulharjo boat, this is where we are talking about. It's in the Punjulharjo village. So the name Punjulharjo boat was taken from the name of the village where it was found. It is in Rembang district, so north coast of Central Java. The site is located around half a kilometer from the current shorelines and only 300 meters from the main road. So it is very easy to access the site, especially now, because there is a nearby famous beach. I think it's called Karangjahe Beach, and it's a very famous tourist attraction. So to start with the history about the funding and the initial finding and the immediate treatments. So the locals accidentally find it in 2008 while they are digging up the sand to make the salt evaporation ponds. Until today, the site itself is still surrounded by saltern ponds. Here well, along the presentation, I will kind of like also explain like the photos I chose for the presentation, and this one here. This is one of my favorite because in terms of like at the time, the locals were so excited to go to the site, and they believed that by taking the waters from inside the boat, like they will have some kind of I don't know, a bit of spiritual experiment, I guess. So they thought they will be healthier if they kind of like use the water from inside of the boat. But it is really a very common phenomena in Indonesia. So after the findings and the locals kind of like told the people in the village, and then they reported to my office. It's easy to say that, my office as Balai Jogja. And then there's another office dealing with conservation, BPCB. So like both offices were kind of like work together to kind of like survey the sites and did the rapid documentation. And after that, a few like other institution got into building a shelter because the condition at the time, although looks remarkable, but also they were concerned about exposing all the timbers in the coastal weather. So they decided to kind of like build some kind of shelter for the boat. But of course, still, we are talking about tropical weather. These photos here on the left-hand side shows the picture taken, I think on May 2008, like right after the finding. I think the first report came in April. And then around 6 months later in December, although we can see some kind of shelter has been built to kind of like cover the boats, but still we can see the level of deterioration on the timbers, especially it is very prominent on the stringers here. Yeah, but at the time, quite a lot of people kind of like had a look at the sites, and preliminary conclusion was drawn that the boat was an ancient wooden boat with locks like on the inner side of the hull planks, with frames and other components still intact. At the time, some scholars already said that it was built using the zone plank and less lock technique. You might see like a different colors in the way I wrote things, and it was intentional. So we will kind of like discuss a little bit about the orange words. So, but this, the zone planks, it is until now is a discussion about the correct terminology, to address different types and different technique used in, let's say, ancient wooden boats. So around a year after the site was found, Balai Jogja or Balai Arkeologi Yogyakarta, they did the excavation on the site in 2009. The purpose was, of course, to reveal the whole remain. And then I put a note here that a sample of rope was taken for radiocarbon dating 6 months prior to the excavation, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, the result of the dating was announced together with the report of the excavation. So it's just, letting you know how the sequence of the action taken on the boat. They, as you can see here in the photos, they did a remarkable recording of the boat. I will show you later. And of course, after the excavation, there we can see an almost complete hull in a remarkable condition and only a few upper strakes missing, with many internal strengthening still intact. You can see clearly in this picture, you can see all the stringers, the stanchions, the frames, the hull is kind of like still intact from the bow over here to the stern over here, and there is a rudder mounting post right behind the stern. So it is remarkable. It's amazing, and the team took a lot of great photographs, and they are so pretty. So yeah, the photographs then became like one of my data for my thesis, to kind of like understanding the whole technology, the boat building technology of the Punjulharjo boat. So from the excavation, the team reported that the entire length was measured 15.6 meters from the bow to the stern. And then at midship, it was measured 4.6 meters. Of course, only the from the remaining strakes. And frames, stringers, stanchions were fastened by arenga pinata ropes, or some of you more familiar with ijuk. It's like the ropes were all over the hull. So you can see in the picture here, we can see the locks and then the frames, and then here's the stringer, and you can clearly see the lashing, how the lashing works. We will talk more about it further in the presentation, but this is something that one of the very important information that we gathered from the Punjulharjo book. Like I said before, so after the report from the excavation was released, it also mentioned about the results of the radiocarbon dating. So the boat was dated from the 7th to 8th century Common Era, and so it became the oldest intact boat remains in Indonesia as well as Southeast Asia. It was not the first last lot vessel found, but before Punjulharjo, most of them were fragmentary, so only a few hull planks or rudder or other parts of the boats were found. So this is the oldest one, because before this, the Butuan boats from the Philippines were already found, but at that time, it was dated from the 12th century. This is the drawings I mentioned earlier, made by the team from Balai Jogja. As you can see, it is amazing. It is very clear, and it's just very informative. but also it's not a critic per se, but I would like to kind of like address some kind of missing gaps in the report done by Balai Jogja. Because you can see here, the report itself, well, probably you can't see, but well, I'm going to tell you anyway. So the report kind of like the depth of nautical archaeological aspects. So it was a great work. The excavation was amazing. The report was amazing, but the boat itself was treated a bit similar to other sites. So quite a few technological boat building aspects were overlooked. And of course, at the time, like you can see in the previous photos, some of the parts were still covered in a bit of mud or a stacks of collapsed components like the stringers, the stanchions, bamboos and frames, and other stuffs were kind of like still there on top of the hull. So some parts of the hull, they couldn't kind of like observe it very clearly. So that's one of the reasons why I decided to kind of like go back to the sites and kind of like did a survey and kind of recorded and everything. And after that, after the excavation, the boat was some kind of like handover to the BBCB, the one authorizes the preservation about cultural heritage, and they work together with the conservation office in Borobudur. They were amazing about doing the conservation. So I think the initial kind of like research or a bit of study how to do the conservation was studied in 2010, but the actual work was started in 2014, if I'm not mistaken. And then they decided to kind of like dismantling the hull and then treated each timber and ropes with polyethylene glycol, PEG 400, and later with the PG 4000. I think we have Mas Nahar here from the conservation office. They will kind of like, correct me if I say the wrong thing about this. But yeah, and after that, in the conservation finished in 2017, very late in December. And then early 2018, they reassemble the boats. So they reconstruct the hull and then put it on display. So this annoying arrow here is kind of like to give you the information that I was there doing the survey in this kind of timeline. So in December and in December 2017 and January 2018. So at the time, yeah, it wasn't pretty at the site because there was some kind of construction work. They kind of like, they were building the semi-open museum that is, you can visit now. But at the time, it was a bit chaos in the site. So, quite the opposite with the excavation photos. My photos were less pretty, but it was an experience for me because to see like how the boats were dismantled, and I can observe the timber separately and I could kind of like see what happens inside of the whole planks and how things, how the assembly of the hull, especially how the builders assembled the bow and the stern, and all of those kind of stuff were very exciting. Yeah, like, so the general aim for the survey I did, well, of course, the first is to kind of like finish my master, to kind of like write my thesis. But what I did was to kind of like make a corrections or addition to previous drawings of the boat. The drawing that I showed you before, and then later I will show you a few of differences that I made. And then to record how the fastenings kind of like work and how the hull was assembled. And then like, of course, at the end of the day, I would like to kind of like make confirmation and correction of the prevailing information, because at the time, a lot of aspect of the Punjulharjo boat were still hypothetical. So I thought it would be good to kind of like go back to the site and kind of like do the survey and do the observation with a new perspective, to kind of like give more details to the technology and the technique the builder used to kind of like build this boat. Yeah, so this like an overview of what I found during the field work. So the hull in length, there is no difference. It's still 15.6 meter. And so it also says like the keel plank is in a very good condition. So it didn't shrink. It's still in the, ever after a decade exposed to the tropical weather, the measurement is still the same, like 15.6 meters. But there is a difference in the width. I measured 3.6 meters and 1.1 meters in depth emitters. The boat, so this is from a closer observation after the dismantling of the boat. Of course, it consists of a keel plank, a wing end on each extremities. I could see 6 strakes on the starboard and 5 strakes on the port side, and each strake is composed of 1 to 4 planks of varying size. It is not a double-ended vessel because the extremities were kind of like built differently in terms of shape and size, and we will talk more later. And on the extremities, the strakes end into a wing end to kind of like form the bow and the stern instead of, so this boat has no stems or a stern post. And here on the right hand side, you can see this is, it was taken right after the team kind of like reconstruct the hull, and you can see a lot of sandbags kind of like support the hull from the outside to kind of like, make it firm, or so all the planks would sit permanently. Yeah, so before kind of like talking more into the technology aspect of this boat, I would like to kind of like put this boat in a wider perspective, in a wider scope of the last luck tradition. I quoted Laksina's kind of like words to explain about the last luck tradition. So, and I think it's a good description. This is a process begins with preparing the keel piece and the hull planking with a series of protrusion of or locks, and then the hull is assembled by edge joining with dowels and sometimes in combination with lacing. And the locks are drilled with holes and used primarily to fasten frames, thwarts, and other vessel components with ligature to last them together. Of course, you can see the orange words that I would like to kind of like, emphasize on. But also there's one gray words, the lacing one. I have to had a chat with Gay about this. I don't know if it's a typo, but I think this means lash, not lacing, lashing. And we will talk about it later. When we were talking about boat building traditions, of course, the initial effort was to kind of like build commonalities. What is the common features that we can see in several similar artifacts per se, and then so we can kind of like divine what it is. So in the last luck tradition, we have a few common features. We can see a keel plank, edge joint plank, and then the locks, of course, or it's called tambuku in Malay, and wing ends and fastenings, and of course, timber species. But what is interesting about this, like between the commonalities, we can also see there are particularities found in different sites, different boats, different ships. So it is something that very challenging to kind of like discuss, because until now, there are still like a very big question marks about how these commonalities and particularities actually work in the region of Southeast Asia. And to give you like the overview of the last luck traditions, you can see this map. This one is made by Professor Mangan. You can see the orange dots are the sites, but he kind of like combined the stitch plank and the last luck tradition. But anyway, most of them are the last luck vessels. So you can see like the dispersal of the traditions, and a lot of them were found in Indonesia. And this is the some kind of corrections and additions of the drawing. So this one, the bread plant, the base, I used the one from Balai Jogja, but this is the current condition. As you can see, there are no longer internal strengthening, all gone. Frames, stringers, stanchions, they were no longer there. Well, the reason of that is a lot of the timbers were broken down. So like the stringers, they were originally like a long pole. from at least from the bow to the admidships, or from the stern to the admidships. But I think today the condition was not that good, so they kind of like broke down into smaller pieces. I think only a few frames they are still in a good conditions, but stanchions, because they made from a single piece of wood, they are in a good condition also. But really it's difficult to kind of like put them all together into the original positions. However, because of that situation, I could kind of like see clearly about how the whole plank were cut and joined in with the scarf joint here. And then I could observe all the holes for the rope holes. All the dots are the actual rope holes on the hull. And I know it sounds a bit crazy that someone, you know, kind of like willing to see and count all the holes, but it is truly was something that later make me understand better how all the fastenings work in the boat. I also record some kind of like deteriorations of the timber here. And this is a new drawing. This is the keel plank, because previously, of course, it was difficult to kind of like observe the keel plank. Yeah, I was lucky to kind of like able to record, measured, and put it in a drawing. So we will kind of like break down the 6 elements that I mentioned before about the characteristic features of Leslak traditions, but particularly in the Punjulharjo boat. And we start with the keel plank. So far as I know, all of the sites, all of the Leslak vessels use a keel plank. One exception is the Cirebon wreck that is thought to have a true keel, but I think it is still open for discussion. The keel plank in Punjulharjo boat was carved out of a single piece of wood. I mentioned before, it is in a good condition. Both ends are tapered to accommodate wing ends, and the keel plank holds 15 locks across its length. And these locks were kind of like later serve as the references to kind of like place the locks on the hull planks. And for the hull planks, all of them were edge joined in a pose with a lap straight. If you are familiar with the terminology, so they were put to meet the seam. So each strake has one large plank in the middle of the hull, and then 1 or 2 smaller planks towards its extremity, connected on scarf joints. And as I said before, because the absence of the internal strengthening actually kind of like give us the opportunity to observe the whole plank. So the large planks are generally similar in shape, while the aft and the fore planks are varied. So I kind of like put the drawings. This is the fore planks. So the planks closer to the wing end on the bow. And I put like here, ligature hole, hollow, and ligature hole rope intake. So actually there are a few ropes, the original ropes they are still on the boat. And so if someone wants to kind of like take samples, it's simply using this kind of like drawing. So, oh yeah, I know, I want to go to that particular planks to kind of like take out the ropes, or the opposite, if someone's kind of like did it illegally or something. So the authority can actually kind of like check it using this drawing. Yeah, so the planks are joined on the seams with lashing and dowels, which are completely discrete from the other side of the hull. If some of you are familiar with other traditions, for example, from the Central Indian Ocean around southern India, and also from the Western Indian Ocean. So they use a bit a different kind of like technique to kind of like assemble the hull. So you can see like the lacing from the outside, but for the last like traditions, all the fastenings can only be seen from the inside. So it's this kind of like smooth outer side of the hull. Yeah, so I mentioned here that the locks on the smaller planks, or aft and fore planks, were often shaped to accommodate the scarf joint. So we kind of like, we found irregularities in the shape of the locks. And yeah, like I say earlier, the majority has rectangular shape with 4 holes that go from the upper surface to the side, like illustrated here. And one thing that I would like to address is that the Punjulharjo boat, the locks on the keel plank have similar shapes with the locks on the hull plank. A few of other boats and ships of the lesser traditions, they have a different shape of locks. Usually the one on the keel plank are kind of like spatial and different with those on the hull planks. But that's not the case with Punjulharjo boat. But we kind of like see the irregular shapes that consists of triangles, polygons, and also ridges, so continuous ridges, especially on the planks near the sterns. I don't know if there's the same thing near the bow, because we didn't found the upper strakes on the bow. And about the wing ends, this also one of my favorite things about Lashlak vessels, about the wing ends. So they don't have stem and stern posts. They have wing ends. It is a single V-shaped timbers with one arm longer than the others. So the strakes we're closing in and a joint to form the bow and the stern. And in Punjulharjo boat, the bow wing end is larger than the stern one. So each of the wing end sits on top of the keel plank. So the shape of the end of the keel plank was very particular to accommodate this wing end. So, and they use three types of fastenings. There were dowels, ligatures, as well as mortise and tenons. So mortise and tenons were used in Punjulharjo boat, but only for the bow and stern assembly. So in the amidships, there were none. And I kind of like mention here only the first and the fifth strokes directly correspond with the wing ends, and this is kind of like the introduction of how the bow and the stern was assembled. And so we move on to the fastenings. Generally, there are three types of fastenings in Punjulharjo boat: the plank fastenings, frame fastenings, and stringer and stanchion fastening. So the frame fastenings, if you remember some of photos I showed previously, the frame fastenings also serve as plank fastenings because the ropes, they lost two adjacent locks that each is on different planks. So for example, if we see here, so one lashing, one frame lashing goes from here, a couple of holes here to a couple of holes here. So they kind of like also tighten two different planks together. And this is something important that we only learn from Punjulharjo book, because previously the study of Laslat tradition was predominantly relied on historical and also ethnographic studies. And the more modern vessel works with different kind of system. So they don't use the frame fastenings to kind of like also tie the planks together. So I'm not saying that this type of system work in all of the last lock watercrafts, but of course it is something to be considered about. In Punjulharjo boat, I would like to say that the ropes, the ligatures, are the primary fastenings supported by dowels for the planks and mortise and tenons for the bow and the stern. And it's not a good it's not a very good drawings, but I think it's all right. It's kind of like to show how the three fastenings work together. So this is the keel plank, and this is the bow wing end. This is the other side. So this is the keel plank, the other end of the keel plank, and this is the stern wing end. So they use ropes, they use dowels, and also mortise and tenons. And you can see small dots, two dots here. They are actually holes to kind of like for the packs to kind of like lock the mortise and tenons. The internal strengthenings components were solely fastened by ropes. So you can't really see that the builder was kind of like use a lot of ijuk ropes to kind of like, you know, make the whole strong. And I touched a little bit about the timber species. So the team, the original excavation team, they also took samples of timbers, one from the plank, one from the stringer, and one from the dowels, and they came back from a different species. The plank was a Palakium gutta, or you might be more familiar with gutta percha. So it's kind of like rubber. So you can see here how people kind of like collecting the gutta percha from a tree trunk, sorry. This is a very fascinating photos, I guess, kind of like give us the example how it was done traditionally. What I want to say here, because I think the limited number of samples taken to identify the timber species is something that we need to kind of like work on. I think we need more samples to kind of like generate the more comprehensive idea about the raw materials used for Punjulharjo boat, because there are cases like in the Butuan boats, they use different timber species for the different planks in one hull. So yeah, I think it will be you know, more interesting to kind of like understand better about this. And from the study that I done, I think by analyzing and comparing technology of the Punjulharjo boat with those of other vessels, my suggestion is that it should be placed in the earlier stage of less luck traditions, when the ligatures serve as the primary fastening before declining and then being entirely replaced by all dowels fastening. The reason I put it forward, because previously Punjulharjo was placed in a transitions state in the timeline of the kind of like constructions evolution of the less luck traditions. So previously it was argued that because the boat used the combinations of dowels and ligatures, it should be the time where the traditions itself kind of like evolve from the ligatures only, and then using ligatures and dowels towards only dowels. So they kind of like you know, left the ligatures behind and no longer use it. But I think and also because there are new reports, new results of dating from other vessels, like the one in Vietnam, the Chau Tan, from the 9th century, and also the Butuan, the new dating came back as from the 10th century. And so I think the Punjulharjo boat is still in the earlier stage of the less luck traditions. And this is some, you know, the things I did in my master. So kind of like to provide a better reference, so to say, for other people to kind of like discuss about the Punjulharjo boat. Of course, I said before that the shape of the fore planks and the aft planks were irregular. It's kind of like hard to identify or to differentiate between one strake to another. So I tried to kind of like put it different colors for different stakes here, and I kind of like making the system of numbering. So in the future, hopefully everyone can probably use this to kind of like during the conservation, if this log over here has kind of like issues or something, we know which one that we are talking about. We can put a name on it. And yeah, I think because when I was doing the survey, it was hard to kind of like, you know, identify its plank, even though some of them have different shape, but it wasn't that easy. So I kind of, you know, try, it might be a good idea to kind of like give each plank, each log, like, you know, a different identity. And so from there, we kind of like move on to today and moving forward also. This not so new photos. This is just was taken right after they finished the semi-open museum, and they kind of like put it the reassembled boats on more or less the original location. So this is the exact site, so the same site where it was originally found. The difference is only on the altitude. So, and from here, what can we do more about this Punjulharjo boat? So, and I am lucky that I am involved in collaborative projects with foreign institutions. There is an ongoing projects with the University of Naples Orientale, making the 3D models of photogrammetry and ship lines. And also in the future, we'll be making the digital reconstructions of the upper part of the hull, hopefully. But today, of course, the special mention is about the projects that we are kind of like working with Ritsumeikan and Lippi in the Japan Circle collaborative projects. So the project itself is called the Digital Database and Visualization of Borobudur Maritime Landscape and Japan-Indonesia Maritime Connections. There are kind of like three main objectives. One of them is the 3D visualization of maritime transportation and marine ecologies is depicted on temple reliefs, you know, by using the close range photogrammetry. And then we kind of like had more conversation and discussions of what we gonna do with the Punjulharjo. So, and we came out with the idea to kind of like making the transparent visualizations of the Punjulharjo boat to show how the fastenings works in the hull assembly. Our colleagues in Ritsumeikan University are really good at this kind of stuff. So you can see this is one of their works. So you can see through the buildings. So well, I'm already excited about this. Hopefully we will come up with a 3D model of the boat, but you can see through inside the hull plank. So how the ropes, where one ropes go to the other holes and everything, and how the dowels work, how the mortise and tenon works, and it is yeah, you know, hopefully it will be it will come up with a good result. Hopefully, if you ask me how technically will we do that, I have zero idea, because like I'm not good at this kind of technology. I'm a cave woman myself. So, but yeah, being in this team is quite an opportunity for me. And we will see, hopefully in a very near future. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mbak Agni. It was really fascinating presentations, and then I learned a lot from the materials, and
Thank you.
also thanks a lot for sharing the latest information on the on your research, and looking forward to work with you, and hopefully we can create that kind of models in the future. Yes, you're right that the Ritsumeikan experts are very good in this kind of technology of transparent visualizations. So we have to they kind of developing some kind of algorithms to do this kind of modeling. So yeah, looking forward to work with you sooner in this project. Um, yes, I think I will open the Q&A sessions, and there are already a number of questions here, and I will read the questions. But if you like to answer the questions to ask the question in Bahasa Indonesia, please feel free to do it. Then you can write your question in the chat room, and I will translate it to the audience. So, okay, so let me begin with the first question. Sorry, there was a kind of a technical problem earlier, so that the first and two questions went only to the to the host account. So they are not available in the public chat room, but I will just read the question. The first question is from Mas Eri Sudewo, and he asked, based on written sources, both Southeast Asia and Arabian boat building were built by stone wooden planks using fiber, such as Arenga Pinata Ijux fiber. What is the difference in both building techniques between Southeast Asia boat building than Arabian from Arabian boat building technique? Silakan Mbak Apri.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the questions, Mas Ari Sudewo. Yeah, there are quite a few differences that we can see directly. Of course, I'm not saying that the Laslak tradition is the only traditional Southeast Asia traditional boat building, but if you don't mind, I will kind of like compare the Arabic traditions with the Laslak traditions. Just probably make it easier. Of course, with the one from the Arabic tradition, they don't use locks. It's just a very clear feature that we can see in the difference between both types of traditions. And also they use a different kind of like system to fasten the planks. So like I said, I mentioned earlier that in the last log, the plank lashings, the plank fastenings were discrete, so you can't see anything from the other side of the hull. In opposed with the Arabic traditions, so because they use lacing, so this terminology was called, or more commonly called, as the sewn plank, but I disagree with the terminology. I prefer the lacing, the lace plank. So it's continuously some kind of stitches in the lashings. Each stitch is kind of like individually. So yeah, they're very different. So in the Arabic boats, you can see from the outside of the hull the lashing of the hull plank. That's like the most obvious difference between both traditions. I hope that answer your questions, Mas Eri.
Do you have any follow-up questions, or sudah cukup, Mas Eri? I think masih masih mute, I think. So let me unmute you. Ya, silakan. Any follow-up questions or?
What is basic? Okay, thank you, Mbak Agni. So the basic difference between the Southeast Asia technique building, food technique building, than the Arabian technique building is the Southeast Asian using tambuku, while the Arabian not using tambuku, yeah?
Yeah, the logs. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mbak Agni.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mas Eri. The second questions, just a minute. The second question is from Agung Gumilar, and he is asking. There are three questions, and this boat was from 7th century CE. So, is there another findings inside the boat, like human remains or anything? So, and then second question, is there any hypothesis about the ancient port near Punjulharjo during Sriwijaya or Medang era? The third question, since the boat really huge, can it be for a trade or war boat?
Okay. Okay, thank you. There are quite a lot. Please remind me if I miss any questions. So the first one, sorry, the first one was about the port, or that's the second one?
The first one's about the other findings inside.
The other findings.
Yeah,
all right.
Other findings.
Yeah, there are a few stuff found from inside the hall. There is one head of a statue, and also there is like a wooden stick, and then there are ceramics, and there are potteries fragments, but from the ceramics, they were coming from a later period, so not from the 7th or 8th period. The way I say it is because I think there is something missing from the report about the exact positions of the findings. So we really couldn't kind of like understand clearly the context. Of course, it's a possibility that they were coming from a later sedimentation on the site, but end up inside the hull. So I don't have enough data to say that other findings, even though they were found inside the hull, was from the same context with the boat itself. So yeah, so the first question, and the second question is about the port. Yes.
Yes, ancient port. During Sriwijaya or Medang era.
Until today, we haven't found like the harbor site or a port site on the north coast of Java from that era. We do have information of ancient port a bit further toward the east, but that were from the Majapahit era, so it's a bit later, around 14th or 15th century. But we haven't found ancient ports in near Rembang from the 7th or 8th century. But I would like to add that the area was originally at the time still a strait called Muria Strait. You couldn't see it today because of the sedimentation. It became land. now became, if I'm not mistaken, Kudus and Jepara. But before the 15th century, there were actually a strait between the north coast of Central Java and the Mount Muria on the north. So that's for the second questions. And the third questions was about the function, the original functions of the boat. Yes. It is still a mystery until now. We don't have a comprehensive data to kind of like say a lot about it. Actually, Punjulharjo is not that big if you kind of like compare, for example, with the Cirebon, because like Cirebon is like nearly 30 meters in length. And we know exactly that the Cirebon wreck was used to carry like a lot of cargo. But yeah, for the Punjulharjo boat, simply because we don't have data, like I said before, we didn't found like contextual like cargo or other artifacts. We don't have enough to kind of like say the original function of the boat. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mbak Agni. Okay, so let me let me read the next questions in the chat room. It's coming from let's see, Kata Ivankov. And thank you for your presentation. Could you give historical context to where this boat was used and the people that use it? Also, maybe your theory on its use, fishing tradition, or transportation, and was it part of the Kalinga kingdom or outside trader? I think it's similar to the third question earlier.
Yeah, thank you for the questions. I hope I can answer more about the original function. Unfortunately, I can't, but maybe if we are working more and have more information about the boat, we can finally answer these questions. But to put it in the historical context, because it's in the 7th to 8th century, I would say it kind of like correspond with the old Mataram kingdom, because we know at the time people from other places, of course, they had come to Indonesia, particularly Java, to kind of like interacted with the local people. So yeah, I can't really elaborate more on that, except just to kind of like, because it was from the 7th to 8th century, it corresponded with the old Mataram kingdom.
Yes, thank you. And I think that you are correct that we need to do more research on these issues, and it will be very interesting to see the kind of network that was going on in that in Indonesia and also in part of the Southeast Asia before the European came later on. So this kind of network research on the kind of network probably will help us also to put Punjulharjo both in the context, historical context at that time period, and also looking at the kind of commodities that this boat can carry, whether it's a particular kind of commodities or particular kind of resources and so forth. Yeah, but yeah, still much to be done. Okay, the next questions. Oh, this is a very very hard questions from the expert in boat building.
All right.
Horst Liebner. Okay. And
Good afternoon, Pak Horst.
Ya, selamat siang, Pak Horst, and he's joining from Tanah Beru. His question is an addition. There are two questions. The first question is an addition to the Nanhan or Cirebon wreck. The Nanhan Cirebon wreck's keel or plank was not dug out, so we do not know the lower shape. In any case, the lower planking was much more like thick blocks of timber than planks, with perhaps the wide thick rations of 3:1. So the keel plank would be a block just the same. Where would we draw the borderline between plank and block-like plank? That is the first question. And the second question from Pak Horst is the hypothetical reconstruction of the Nanhan Cirebon keel plank looks nearly like the keel plank Bu Agni showed to the Punjulharjo ship, except that there were not lugs, but rabbited longitudinal edges into which the holes for lashing lines were drilled. So did you find relationship in the distances between the Tambuku lugs? The position of these slugs would have been determined at the latest when the keel was laid, so should have been thought out beforehand, using some kind of pattern that should be represented in such a relationship. So do you want to answer all the question, or you just want to answer the first one first, and then because these are a very long question and very technical one. Okay.
Yeah, I propose that we have some kind of separate discussion because this is very interesting, and I know that Pak Horst work on the Cirebon wreck, so he is very is very good at this kind of stuff. But it's very interesting about the keel of the Cirebon, because you say that it's like a block-like plank. But I don't know, did you kind of like see the similar shape at midship, or only on the bow and the stern? Because like for Punjulharjo, near the extremities, the shape of the keel plank are a bit like rectangular, not really rectangular, but like a bit more like rectangular, bit block. So and then it kind of like widen towards the midships, because so I kind of like imagine, because the size of the Cirebon wreck is twice of Punjulharjo, so it should be like the size of the block, as you say, also will be larger. What do you think?
Ya, silakan Pak Horst. I
Yeah.
already give you an access to microphone if you want. Yeah.
I imagine that because we didn't go under it in order not to destroy the site. I imagine that it would be more or less the same as what you have, but double the size.
Right.
It turned into a square in the bows, but on that square were some kind of cheeks, which then were the places where the wing planks went onto.
Yeah.
So it has a little protruding cheeks on the sides of the square end of the keel, whatever you want to call it. The thing is just, it would have been still very, very thick. If you look at those, the garboard strake, for example, or the ones a little bit more up, they were really 3 wide, 1 thick. This is not like a plank is, a plank is something like 15:1 or so. This is it's like a block. This is not like planks in that sense. So your ship is much more a ship in that sense because it uses planks. Now, and perhaps for a little explanation for my question about the distances, I had the very first drawings, the handmade drawings, and the first computer drawing. I tried to combine them, and they wouldn't work because there was differences, as you said. The differences in between the handmade drawings and the first computer drawings were so huge that you couldn't rely on those distances. Do you now have distances which are reliable? You know, you can measure it really in detail, can't you?
The distances between lugs?
Yeah, between, let's say, a center line of the lugs.
Yeah, I have them actually. I think I don't know it will answer your questions or not, but I see that the locks on the keel were carved first and then as the references, right? And for the Punjulharjo, there's like a gap at midships between I think the 8th and the 9th locks. And
that's a little broader there, isn't it?
True. So the fore side of the boat is slightly larger and than the off part. So I don't have the answer why, but yeah.
Try to take your computer drawing and draw lines in the center of the lugs. Just draw lines and then put the measurements onto them. And then have a look at those measurements, whether they are repeated, whether you can get something like fractions of something.
Right, so we're looking kind of like ratio or
ratios in between those measurements.
Right.
Because the guys had to decide to make those lugs on the keel when they started. They couldn't make them later. They had to be done at the moment they made the keel. So they had some plan, they had some measurements they used there. And they had to they had to get these measurements onto the keel. They had to think about how they would work. It's a little tricky. You might have seen that we didn't find out how they did it in the Radiocarbon wreck. We see that they did something. How they did it is, you can see major things, but where they started and where they ended, that's impossible to find out now. It will be a very simple system in the end. Then I have an addition for your short planks in the bow and the stern. It's rather necessary because in bow and stern, the how should I say, the surface to be covered by planks is not so much. So you use lesser planks. That's a simple thing. It is surprising that they did that apparently on an ad hoc basis. You know, these planks are not repeated. They're not the same like on starboard, on port side, and fore and aft. It's just put in there like they had some planks and they put them in there. It looks like that. I guess that's what I can say to it. In the end, we should have a discussion about it later without all the people because it would be too much too technical.
So looking forward for that discussion.
We will. Let's hope COVID doesn't end one of these days.
Oh yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pak Horst.
Thank you.
Sama-sama.
Thank you, Pak Horst. And I think your point very important also to our project. I think one of the way of dealing with this measurement probably using a very precise photogrammetry recording, and the computer drawing or CAD, it's kind of a little bit different. But if you use the photogrammetry recording, I think we will do that kind of precise recording of distance. But the challenge is how to make the precise recording photogrammetry, and that's another problem that we need to resolve later on. And so the accuracy of the photogrammetry recording should be at least more than 90% of accuracy. So then, we need to consult with our expert later on, probably on that kind of things. You know. Good, interesting input to the project. Yes. Again, terima kasih, Pak Horst. The next question is from Ian McCann. And thanks, very interesting. The construction method very similar to the Chowtan wreck. The lugs alignment of the two holes for sewing alongside the lugs, wings, dowels, and scarf joints are very similar. Differences are the holes for sewing that follow the shape of the joint, and this may make the city joint stronger. The lashing are bundles of two-strand ropes of only around 3-4 millimeters. The bundles vary between 12 to 24 ropes per bundle. Could both vessels be of the same building traditions? I mean the Chautan and the Punjulharjo. Silakan.
Okay, thanks, Ian. It's very interesting. Yeah, well, of course, we are talking further that both vessels were from the Leslak traditions, right? So we are talking about like a more detail into the technique used on both vessels. Yeah, the same with the Punjulharjo boat. The lashings were also consisted of bundles. I do have the fragments of the ligatures, but I haven't counted how many strands in the bundle. I will do that later, and I'll talk to you later. But yeah, I think it's more than 10 strands in one bundle, and you can see easily in the photograph I show you earlier, that like in one lashing they use like several ropes to kind of like make it tighter and stronger. And time wise, it's not that different between Punjulharjo and Chautan, because Chautan is from the 9th century, right? But yeah, I am very interested to kind of like check further about the report, because I so far I only read like journal articles. I haven't read like the full report of Chautan, but I see like yourself a lot of similarities in both vessels. So yeah, only one, I think, one different that I can see between two vessels. Like I said, Punjulharjo, the locks on the keel plank and on the hull planks, they have similar shapes, and that's not the case with the Chautan, I think, because the locks on the keel plank of the Chautan boats are different with the one on the hull. I guess I'm not wrong. Is it, Ian?
Okay, I hope that it answered your question, Ian, or you wanted to ask the question directly um, to Agni. If you want to do
Ian
that,
already
please
said
open your
yes.
yeah. Okay. 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 So next question is from Sinatria. Thank you for your excellent presentation. My questions, according to your interpretations, how far is the boat's cruising range with this kind of a technology?
All right. This is another difficult question. I would say simply it's a very, very preliminary and brief observation, just by comparing the Punjulharjo boat with the other Leslak vessels. I know that the planks on the Punjulharjo boat are thicker than many other vessels. They are like 5 centimeters. A lot of other vessels only like 3 centimeters. And then also we can see how robust the strengthening system used in the Punjulharjo boat. So it is a very, I would say it's a strong hull, but because the dowels and the ropes they are providing strength, but also flexibility. So yeah, I would say the Punjulharjo boat was not just used in the insular Indonesian waters, but it went beyond Indonesian waters. I would say they use it for international road. Yeah, I think that's my answer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, that's both the questions and the answer is still hypothetical.
Yeah, true,
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, we need more research on that, and I'm not sure whether this is one way or another. Yeah, because it can also be very the technology can also be unsuited to high seas travel. Maybe I'm not sure, but this is again very hypothetical. So I think this is part of the Puslit Arkena's job to answer the question. not not part of this discussion, was Sinatria. Okay, so the next question is from Bu Dewi Lubis, Afrani Lubis, from Diponegoro University, and her question is the what that rectangles with four holes things function. So the function, I think the what kind of what rectangles, I think she's mentioning, or maybe tambuku or something. I'm not sure about that. Yeah.
Is she referring to the logs, to the tambuku?
Yeah, I don't know. So let me ask Bu Dewi. Bu Dewi, maybe you can ask your questions in bahasa Indonesia. Silakan Bu Dewi. Ayo, saya sudah kasih akses. Ya, silakan.
Iya, yang kotak itu Ibu, yang ada titik 4-nya, bolongan 4 itu Ibu.
So logs, yes, tambuku.
Yeah, I think she's mentioning tambuku. Yeah.
Yeah, so the first function is they serve as kind of like a mounting, so like a base where the builder put frames, gading, on top of them, because they were positioned kind of like adjacent to one another. So you can put frames on top of it, and then they kind of like use ropes and ligature to kind of like tie the frames onto the logs, onto the protruding squares. But from the Punjulharjo boat, we also learned that the logs also used to some kind of to type between two blanks. So does that answer your questions?
Bagaimana, Ibu? Apa masih kurang?
Because they don't use metal nails. They don't use metal nails at all. So instead of put the frames directly on top the whole planks, they use the logs to kind of like put the frames and then tighten the frames onto the logs. So kind of like it's some kind of like connector between the planks, the hull, and the frames.
Maybe bahasa Indonesianya is dudukan.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, dudukan. So when you want to connect the plank and the keel, then you need to have something, dudukan. So the holes is kind of helping you to tie the mengikat itu apa namanya papan kepada dudukan bawahnya gitu. Something like that lah. Betul kan, Mbak Agni?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the next questions, again coming from Kata Ivankov. Is it possible that this is one of the famous Kunlun Bo 8th century ships described by Chinese texts? They were using same last lap techniques, but maybe with coconut bark. So it would be fantastic if you could carry a comparative study with other similar built boats discovered. For example, the Philippines Butuan boat recovered in very good condition. Is that one part of your research?
Thank you for the questions. Probably for future research. I don't know. I'm still open for more suggestions. But yeah, Kunlun boat. Of course, we are still kind of like discussing the archaeological data and the historical data, because in the historical data you can read about Kunlun boat or Jung Java or and etc. etc. There is a possibility. I haven't done more in-depth research about it, but yeah, there is a possibility. But I think maybe I'm wrong, but like a Kunlun boat or Jung Java are mentioned in the later historical archive. That's as far as I know. But of course, we have to remember that this tradition, the last lap traditions, it lasted quite for a long time. The oldest one dated from the 5th century, and yeah, they lasted until slightly before the 16th century. So of course, there's a possibility that the historical record was kind of like mentioning this type of boat as Kunlun boat. I don't know, maybe, but yeah, I think we need more input from the historians about that.
Yeah, probably as far I remember, Pierre Mangan also already written about this Kunlun Bo, and then I forgot the detail, but I think Mangan probably will argue that Kunlun Bo is a little bit larger than the Yogyakarta boat. If I'm not mistaken, I forgot the argument that he put forward in his article, but he wrote something about Kunlunbo, I think. So maybe
Yeah, that's a good thing that you mentioned, because like the article was nearly 30 years ago or something.
yeah, it was quite
yeah,
early in
yeah,
this
I
kind of
think, yeah,
historical research. Yeah.
true. So yeah, someone needs to kind of like addressing this address using more latest data, of course.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I remember that when I worked with Pierre Mangan long time ago, probably more than 20 years ago in Palembang, and then he mentioned some information about the kind of Kunlun ship, but I forgot. I'm an old man, so okay. Okay, the other following up questions from Mas Agung Gumilar, and he is still haunted with the the idea
Okay.
of the origin of the boat timber. Is it from Java or from outside Java? Good question,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Unfortunately, the analysis report of the timber only mentioned like the area where the trees usually found was quite wide area actually. It mentions Java, Sumatra, Kalimantan. So it's a very common trees, especially in Indonesia and I guess other parts of Southeast Asia. And yeah, it is hard, it is difficult to kind of like pinpoint a certain area, to kind of like, you know, saying that this tree was coming from this forest or whatever. It was really hard. It's not impossible, but we need more, of course, more research and everything. I think someone was developing using what is it? Is it an isotope or something to kind of like pinpoint, you know, a specific location of the artifact and things like that. But at this time, the information we have is very broad, so we can't say exactly from where the timbers were coming from.
Yes, I think it pretty much answered your question, Mas Agung. Is there any other questions? Any comments or questions to Mbak Agni? That was really a very interesting presentation, and then I learned some new information about the Punjulharjo, and especially more detailed information that were not actually available in any report yet. And I think Balai Arkeologi should have published a more detailed research on this wood. Yeah. Any other questions, comments? Okay, if there is no more questions or comments, I think it's already 4 o'clock here in Indonesia, in Jakarta. So, and I would like to thank Mbak Agni, Mochtar, for your very interesting presentations.
My
And looking
pleasure.
forward also to work with you in the upcoming our project. And for the audience, I would like to draw your attention again to Japan Circle, and we have more series of webinar coming up in the next few months, and I will put the information on my Facebook, or there will be also available on the Kewilayahan LIPI, Instagram, and also Facebook Kewilayahan LIPI, and then we look forward to have you in the next webinars, and the topic will still be the same, the maritime network, Japan-Indonesia Maritime Network. The next we still have to arrange the next presentation, but one thing that is already confirmed is Professor Ito Makoto from Tokyo Metropolitan University will be speaking about the transnational movement, diasporic movement between Okinawa and North Sulawesi. So if today we have archaeological topics, and Professor Ito Makoto will be speaking about anthropological research, his anthropological research. Okay. Again, thank you everybody for joining our webinar this afternoon, and please stay safe because the pandemic is still around, and then looking forward to see you the next webinar series of the Japan Circle of the Research Center for Area Studies, the Indonesian Institute of Sciences, to be renamed Badan Riset dan Inovasi Nasional. Terima kasih, selamat siang, dan sehat selalu Bapak Ibu semua.
Terima kasih, thank you everyone for coming.